I've really fallen in love with paper crafting, and with lots of paper crafting comes lots of learning curves. And I've learned so many different things through trial and error, so I'm going to share some of those tips with you today. And the first one is to use tape instead of glue. Now, this may seem like a no-brainer, but it was something that I had to learn a little bit the hard way when it comes to using double-sided adhesive tape as opposed to lots of glue. Glue, very often, can be a little bit watery, which means that it may actually crinkle your paper. So in lots of cases, obviously not necessarily when it comes to like building 3D crafts, like this little fox that I have here in the background and the owl that I have up here, as just imagine how long that would take to tape all of those little tabs together. No, thank you. But most scrapbookers and paper crafters, card makers, etc. like to use double-sided adhesive tape because it doesn't crinkle your paper and you can use lighter weight paper with it and not have to worry about any kind of crinkling or anything like that. However, when it comes to making the 3D crafts that I pointed out earlier, very often we need to use glue. And in these cases, I would go for a strong embellishment glue. The glue that I like to use is Dual Bond. It has a little bit more of a thicker consistency, kind of a little bit more like porridge, as opposed to a much more watery consistency. I find that this means that it doesn't wrinkle my paper or crinkle my paper as much, so I can get away with using that. And as always, when it comes to this type of glue and these applications, use only as much glue as you actually need. In this case, less is more. Tape is also easier to remove if you make a mistake, but we'll get into that a little bit later as it's pretty much one of my favorite tips. Now, I have long nails, and very often when it comes to removing the covering of double-sided tape, it is very frustrating to have to do it with my long, thick nails. So I started using my weeding tool. The number of times that I've struggled to remove the covering of the double-sided tape with my nails is unthinkable, until I realized you can actually use your weeding tool to remove it. All you need to do is take the sharp point of the weeding tool and slip it in between the adhesive and the covering. Now, this should be quite easy to do if your double-sided tape is stuck on very well to your page. I find that if I'm struggling with this step, it's because the tape hasn't actually been pressed down onto the page well enough. I've kind of just stuck it there and moved on. And then you grab the covering of the double-sided tape in your fingers. So press your finger onto the weeding tool and just pull it off. It works so incredibly well and it's much, much quicker. Now, if you're wondering what is a weeding tool is something that we use in Cricut crafting, particularly to remove the negative of vinyl. So when we cut something with our Cricut machines on vinyl, it just makes cut marks, and everything that's not supposed to be there is supposed to be weeded away. So that's what we use the weeding tool for, and it's pretty much perfect for so many different crafts as well. I tend to use my Cricut tools in many different areas in all of my crafting projects. Now, this one is something that I am looking into, and it probably does depend on brand of tape as well. But we have three main types of normal double-sided adhesive tape. I'm not talking about the foam tape kind. So we have a brown tape, a white tape, and then red tape. Now, brown tape is typically the cheapest, then white tape is the middle layer, and then red tape is typically the most expensive. Over time, and with my experience and talking to different people that work with these kinds of things on the daily, we find that the brown tape is kind of your cheaper entry level tape, and the white tape is your more budget friendly. It's going to last a little bit longer. And the red tape is kind of the one that you're wanting to go for. So depending on the application that you're wanting to use, if you're just sticking something down that's not going to move or have any kind of movable assets or anything like that, then you might be able to get away with brown or white tape. But if it's going to be something that is going to take a lot of movement, like let's say you're making an album or a movable part on something, then red tape would probably be your better bet. So just make sure to tailor the tape that you use to the project and the use of the project, as you may find that the cheaper tapes may not actually work better long term for you. So make sure that you look into that, and it's something you're considering when you're buying your double-sided tape. Now, this is something that has saved my hide more than I'd like to admit, and that's to just remove the corner of the tape when you're actually placing things down. So When you want to line something up and make sure that it's even on all of the sides, take your weeding tool, pull off just the corner of the double-sided tape and flip it over. Place your item down where you want it to be, being careful to just lift up that one little corner with the rest of the page laying flat. Then once you've lined everything up, press down on the sticky side while holding down the rest of the page exactly where you want it to be, and just easily pull off the double-sided tape and press that area down. This makes lining things up much easier, and you'll find that you won't have things all over the place and, like the one side is 1 millimeter thick and then the other border is like a centimeter thick or something like that. So it really helps you to line things up a lot better and get your projects looking super professional. Something else that I've also learned in my experience with scrapbookers is sometimes they use a combination of glue as well as double-sided tape. Now, the reason they would do this is generally if you want to, number one, make sure that something is absolutely going to stick, but number two, also if you need to have just a little bit of movement before you place it down. So if you don't want to use the remove a corner method, you can add glue onto your double-sided tape once you've removed the backing, and then place it down and then move it around just a teeny bit. I'm not going to lie, it's not a method that I use very often. I generally prefer the removing a corner tape method, so I don't really use that one all that often, but I know that it may help some people, so I wanted to share. Using a guillotine instead of a blade trimmer is the one that I've learned the hard way. And now the blade trimmers I'm referring to are the ones that have that slide up and down action. So we're talking about the Cricut trimmer, the Fiskars trimmer, and many other brands have those kinds of trimmers as well. And they are very good for lots of different applications. But when it comes to cutting down your paper and getting nice clean edges, a trimmer is not one that is going to give you those clean edges all the time. I find that with a brand new blade, I'll get good results for a little bit. And then shortly after that, it starts making my page looking torn and looking very uneven and matty and ratty and yucky on the side. And that's where I much rather prefer a guillotine. So I have the Tim Holtz 8.5-inch guillotine, and I absolutely love it. Cannot wait to get the Tim Holtz rotary trimmer. A little bit pricey, but it's absolutely worth it when it comes to getting super crisp edges on your pages. Unless you're going for that unkept look, almost like from paper sanding. Then, by all means, use the trimmer. Now, as promised, this is kind of my favorite tip, and I had to leave it for the end. And I wanted to say thank you very much for watching so far. I do all kinds of Cricut tutorials on my channel, paper crafts, card making, mini album tutorials, all kinds of different things. So subscribe and leave me a comment to let me know what is your best paper crafter tip. And if you have bought me a coffee, I would like to say a huge thank you. It really helps to keep me going, as currently it's not the most lucrative business, so every little bit counts. Thank you. Now, if you have accidentally placed something in the wrong place, either it's dropped while you were busy, lining it up, or maybe you just didn't line it up correctly. It's happened to me countless times. And the one thing that has really saved my hide is a product that used to be called Undo, but now we kind of just hack it and use lighter fluid. What lighter fluid does is it actually loosens the adhesive of the double-sided tape. So basically when you have placed something down on your page in the wrong spot, you can use this product to get on underneath the page, and you can soak your page or soak the area where the double-sided tape is, and then it'll loosen the adhesive and you can reposition your page once it's dried. Now it is lighter fluid, so it does dry pretty quickly. And also the major benefit of this is it doesn't crinkle your paper. It doesn't leave any marks. It is like the best solution for these kinds of things. The one downside that we do have of this method is that the Undo, the original brand bottle, I'll see if I can find a photo and put it here for you. Either it's been completely discontinued or it's not available in South Africa. I'm not quite sure. But we have little bottles of lighter fluid that we like to use. And as you can see, mine has a little spout on it. Catches the lighter fluid when you pour it in and helps guide it to where it needs to be on your page. Now that's actually something that I've designed and 3D printed, and I am selling them. So if you are in South Africa and you want to get hold of one, send me a message and I will see what I can do. If you're in the US, let me know. I'll try figure out a way. As it isn't something that I've seen pretty much anywhere, so I kind of wanted to design one to help me out, help my friends out, and why not help you guys out in the same breath. But if you want to watch some fun Cricut paper tutorials, check out this list here, as there are so many different options that you can choose from. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember, be kind to someone today. See you soon.